recording to Chanuka. The mitzvah of Chanuka is to light lights. How can you make light? Well, you have to have oil or wood or something similar, or duskleichend or something similar. This means you have to have a physical thing. Und men warmt them up, and you have to warm it up. Bis vers oisgashim until it's no longer physical. Und es häupt an zu lichten, then it begins to illuminate everything around. That's the way light was always made up to now. You have something that burns, something that holds on to the fuel, that can burn up the fuel, and then you have to have a fire, and that makes then you have to have something to light it. So in other words, you have to have, basically, to make fire, you have to have two things. You have to have fuel, and you have to have something to hold the fuel, something that's combustible. The licht was men sint on in Chanuka, the light which we light in Chanuka comes from the light which used to be lit in the Beis HaMikdash. Und in Beis HaMikdash, fleckt men jeder Nacht, every night, they would light candles. And it wasn't it candles, it was the oil lamps, right? Oil lamp. And then by the time of the miracle of Hanukkah, isn't it given kind rain of boil? There wasn't any pure oil to send the licht to light the candles. What their Eibishter God he made a miracle. Men had gefunden pach shemen. We found one bottle of oil, chasum b'chosma shel kohen gadol, that was sealed with the seal of the high priest. A kriegel, a bottle, reina boimel, of pure oil. Farziegelt mitten ziegel, and it was sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest. So they were sure it was pure. Well, we have to tilt our heads a little bit here. Well, we have the whole page, though. The boimel, maybe the person who put this on was like after a Fabringen, a Chanukkah Fabringen, so it could be. The boimel, the oil which is in this bottle, was enough for one day. And there was a miracle, and it burned for 8 days. Is zum Endik from the next, right? And that's right. From the end of the miracle of Hanukkah, it lit for 8 days. That came out in the 8 days of Hanukkah. That made the 8 days of Hanukkah. Notwithstanding which the light of Hanukkah came from is similar. It's a copy of the lights of the Beit HaMikdash. Nevertheless, Zayin and Zay, for under the title, they are different in Enlika Zachen in certain ways. Number one, the lights of the Beit HaMikdash were always the same number. And always, every night, they lit 7. The Kegen, which is not the case of Hanukkah, is Gitmin, every night we light another candle. As we add the number, it's different every night. So one difference is in the Holy Temple, the number of lights were the same, and by Hanukkah it was different. Number 2, in the Beis HaMikdash, Fleckman singen the Licht, Tavka by Tag. In the Beis HaMikdash, they would light these 7 candles, they would light the 7 lights when it was still day. What is an hour and a quarter or something before the night came? 2 hours and a half before the night. Then se is nor given good lichtek. It was still totally bright outside. Aber Chanukah licht, the Chanukah candles, sinden men noch wie the Zun vergeht. We light the Chanukah candles after the sun sets. So the lights of the Chanukah, in the Holy Temple, the last thing that was done in the Holy Temple was lighting the candles, and this was done like corresponding to like about an hour and a half or something before before sunset. And we light our Chanuka candles. You're supposed to light the Chanuka candles while it's always night. It's already night. That's when you're supposed to light. Gimel. Nearest Migdash, the lights of the Migdash, they were inside. And the lights of Chanuka, it's a mitzvah that you put them on the door of your house on the outside. Right? Like we say, according to Kabbalah and according to other opinions, you can put them inside, but the main thing, according to Kabbalah, you can put them inside, but the main thing it says in the Shulchan Aruch to put them outside where people can see. The Holy Temple wasn't that way. The Holy Temple, the lights were lit inside. It was lit in what's called the Holy, the Heichal. Number 4, the lights of Chanuka. The lights of Chanuka. Sorry, the mitzvah, the lights of the Migdash and the Mishkan and the Migdash were in a time when the Jews were not lacking anything physically. There are other differences, by the way, but we're not. We'll discuss some of them in the course of this sikha. Especially in the time of the Mishkan and the tabernacle in the desert. Then the Jews had everything they needed. There was bread came from heaven and water came from a rock. There was manna, right? Water from a rock. They were protected from all sides. Even their garments God made for them. The mitzvah is the same. The mitzvah in the Mikdash. The Mikdash in the days of King Solomon, everything was perfect, beautiful, peace in the world, no trouble. Nobody made a war with the Jews. Adarab, exactly the opposite. Get salt, mas, the whole world had paid taxes to the Jews, and all the Jews were, each person under his own vineyard and under his own date tree or fig tree. And the same thing is in spiritual. Spiritually, in the time of the 7 candles were lit, spiritually everything was wonderful. There were no physical problems and they had no spiritual problems. All the Jews did Torah mitzvahs. The Holy Temple was there. Everyone was so grateful to be alive, to serve the Creator. It was happy, healthy. You were happy to see another person. Every person was a miracle, a creation of God. Wow, it's great. But the time of the lights of Hanukkah, this was a time when the Jews were not in their land, and they were under. Is a time when the land of Israel, they were in the land, but the land of Israel was under the rulership of Greece, or the Greek forces, and the Jewish army was very, very small in number and in power. Spiritually, most of the Jewish people had left, and also they couldn't even find any pure oil in the temple. All these differences were connected one with the other. When it's good for a Jew physically, and therefore it can also be good spiritually, because when a Jew hat nit mit an offener hand git, it's a gimel, because when God gives to the Jews with an open hand and a wide hand, and everything spiritually like it was in the time of the first temple, then you don't have to have any war, and you can have Mesiras Nefesh. You don't even have any self-sacrifice. I mean, it's the same thing. Let's take an example. A person, when he's sick, God forbid he's sick, it's very difficult for him to do sins when he's sick. Right? He can't go running around looking for all sorts of pleasures and stealing and lying and doing bad things. He can't do anything when he's sick. He can't do any sins. On the other hand, when a person is healthy, well, then he can do all sorts of sins. But that's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. When a person is healthy, is that's when he should be giving thanks to God. I'm so grateful. And then he can do the Torah, he can do the commandments, he can talk to other people, and be nice, and everything. So in other words, you have your free choice. When they had the temple, so the Jews were healthy. They had free choice. They could do what they wanted to. It was easy to serve God. They should have been thankful, but they weren't. So God made all the Jews sick. And he took everything away. So it would be a little bit more difficult for them to do sins. It didn't really work that way. But at least the one good thing came out of it is that now when a Jew does a sin, so he's not, you can't blame him. I mean, it's all confused. The world is all dark. Everything is, what do you want from him? The time of the temple, then we could do, good things. We were encouraged to do big mitzvahs. Problem is we didn't do them. That's the problem. Okay, but now we're in the temple. Now we're in the time of darkness. We have all these wonderful experiences and things like that. But what about the truth? Now, in order to get to the truth, it's very difficult. It says, therefore, that's what it says. When the Jews were healthy and they were strong, they didn't have to have any self-sacrifice in order to do good. It was easy. Done, then it was enough, every Jew, every day, just to do the same thing you did the day before, because you were doing good. You didn't have to give anything zu geben nach. You didn't have to do more. Similar is also the same thing. You didn't have to have any special efforts to illuminate the streets, to go outside of yourself, because there was no darkness in the streets. In the time of the temple, everything was holy. The menorah in the holy temple was lit. Therefore, it was lit also automatically outside. We can straighten up our... But in the time when it's difficult, the time from war, not only the war with the not only the war with the Greeks, also the war with the Jews themselves that had been, Hellenized. Which is, if we remember, we learned last Friday, that was the vast majority of the Jews. Varum, so if so, these Jews that were faithful and loyal and crazy, or whatever you want to call it, and they wanted to continue Judaism, they had to fight two battles: a spiritual battle. In other words, the Jews, so to speak, if God would have gone according to numbers, the Jews did not deserve any miracles. 99% of the Jews, they didn't even want miracles. And so that was a miracle that God did not pay any attention to the bad. And also just simply in numbers, the number of Jews that were with the Greeks, Barum, because Zayin and Gaven, there were such Jews that they didn't have any Habanit Gehalten from Beit HaMikdash. There were Jews that they weren't so impressed by the Holy Temple. Nit Gehalten from Zelps, Zelps, Städtikentheit. They didn't, from being constantly, I think that's what it means, to being constantly with God. Und Gewalt assimilate, and they wanted to assimilate with the non-Jews, right? They wanted to assimilate the non-Jews. It's very similar. You get people who are they're handsome and they're successful and they're healthy, and because of all these things, so they take drugs and they do all these things to make themselves. But why do that? That's ridiculous, right? No, because he's so handsome and so he's popular and he's there. In other words, using everything. The same thing. The Jews back then at the time of the temple, so they had everything, but because they had everything, so they wanted a little more. They wanted to be like the non-Jews also. In such a difficult time, and especially when the Greeks took over the world, especially in such a difficult time, God gave the mitzvah the lights of Chanuka. In such times like that, you have to have what we call self-sacrifice. In such a time, it's not sufficient that we can just light up you can light up your own house. You can be holy, make your house into a holy temple. That's enough. That's good. It's wonderful, but it's not enough. The Rebbe said in the previous Sikha, if you don't have any power to do any more, right? That means like lighting only the lights of Shabbos, but you only have enough money, it says, for the lights of Hanukkah or the lights of Shabbos. So then you have to take care of your own family. Yes, you do. It's true. If you haven't got any power. But nevertheless, we do have the power. The power is called craziness for Judaism. Last night I went, I just want to tell you, last night I went to a nearby town, a place called Kiryat Ono. And we went to different shopping centers. We lit the candles and we danced with the people. It was really quite, quite inspiring. And these non-religious people, I grabbed them, we danced together and we sang together, and it was, and we brought a bunch of these young kids, these Chabad kids with us. They're all like, 13, 14, 15 years old, not even 15. And you should have seen them, first of all, they went to these different stores and they were talking to these older people and they were speaking, giving over little ideas of Torah. Everybody was listening to them. They were listening and people were very impressed, and they were dancing with these little kids. They had no, no, how do you say, reserve and worries about, talking to old people. Maybe they won't listen to me. Maybe they'll argue with me. In such a friendly way they did it, in such a nice way. It was quite amazing. They didn't do like they were fanatics and they were just, we were giving the message of the Lord. It was very happy and it was quite amazing. It was the same thing 2 years ago. I was by the Rebbe and I saw these little kids were standing by the subway in America with a lulav and etrog on Sukkot. And they were asking people that came out, anybody that was like white that looked at, excuse me, sir, are you Jewish? They asked a few also black people, are you Jewish? They didn't know, are you Jewish? And the black people were happy. They were smiling, laughing, right? It was quite amazing. It was quite amazing, the simplicity of unquestioningly belief in good. So he says that's what the idea of Chanuka is, that you have to light up the streets with unquestioning devotion to the good. That's what's called Mesiras Nefesh. Don't think about yourself and give yourself away. As is Vainik, it's not enough what you lights just in your home, but you have to also, when you fix yourself up, you have to make an effort to light up the street also. Or it's also not enough the number of lights that you light. From the previous, you can't suffice with what you did yesterday because we can never be satisfied with that. Dem was mir is nit geworden niedriger, and we can't be satisfied with the fact that I'm not any less than I was yesterday, that I'm still standing the same level. Not enough. Nor men darf gehen als hecher. You always have to improve and go up. That's one sign of life. Life is something that grows. What can we learn from this? In a time when there's darkness and great darkness, so we have to not, first of all, not be intimidated by the darkness which is in the street. Exactly the opposite. You have to go with self-sacrifice and illuminate the streets. And every day you have to do more and more light and good, happiness, Judaism, until you can bring pure oil and lighting up the holy temple. Und der Eufen, how do you do this? How can you do this? Well, let's see. Okay, let's try. Come on, we'll do this. Men darf sich nit benugenen. First of all, you have to not be satisfied with the amount of light which you did yesterday. But you always have to do more and more. Today, 1 light. Tomorrow, 2. After that, 3, and etc. And beginning immediately don't try to begin with ken men doch nit springen mit amol. Don't try to make immediately illuminate everything, right? Don't men hoyt mit an einlicht. You have to begin doing a little bit good and increasing all the time. Never be satisfied with what you did yesterday. Always trying to increase more. 2, 3. That's first thing. Number one, always increase. Number two, men darf sich nicht benugen in der Mid, wat men macht lichtig bei sich. In Stub, you cannot be satisfied with the fact that you have taken care of your own personal life or that of your family. And say, listen, that will itself illuminate the street. Right? I'll just be a good example, and that'll be enough. This is true, and it is a wonderful thing, and it's good to be a good example. But says the Rebbe, that's not the way to defeat the exile. You have to make an ishtadlut, make an effort. At least you'd be in that direction to going outside of yourself. If in no other way, people come to your house to fix the refrigerator or something like that. Are you Jewish, sir? Come, do a mitzvah. Here, look, put on a pair of tefillin. You'll really enjoy it. Do it 1 minute. The person says, no, I don't have any time. Don't worry about it. God will give you time. But at least that. And that'll give you the idea. Then when you're in your store, you meet a person, right? You have it in your mind that you want to be outgoing. Number three. So that's number one. Number two. Number one was increase constantly. Number two, don't suffice with what you did just in yourself, your house. You have to have this idea of at least beginning to go out. Number three, the Zugang from, because you can say, listen, I'm increasing every day. Today I learned one Mishnah. Tomorrow I'll learn a Mishnah on the line. Today I davened a little bit. Tomorrow I'll daven a little bit more. You're always increasing, but you're doing it only for your own self. That's good, says the Rebbe, but the idea should be going out of yourself as well. Don't be just working to improve only yourself, but it has to be somehow or other to convince another Jew or another non-Jew to do the 7 Noahide commandments. Gimel, der Zugang, the way to do it, has to be Mesiras Nefesh. It has to be in a way of self-sacrifice. It has to be in a way of throwing yourself away, not thinking about what's going to happen to me. It's just like this of a miracle. What's a miracle? It's higher from nature. God created the world, nature. Nature is amazing. Nature itself is a big miracle. But once in a while, God does a real miracle to remind you that the world is a miracle. The same thing is, you and your personal way of dealing with life. You can do it in a normal way. Especially a Jew does Torah, the commandments, that's wonderful. Do the commandments, you do the Torah, you educate your children properly. This is wonderful. But you have to go outside of yourself. You have to be a bit crazy. You have to jump out and go sometimes against impossible odds and forget about what's going to happen to yourself. You have to be sure what you're doing is right. Telling another Jew about Torah, telling another Jew about mitzvahs, convincing another Jew to put on tefillin, to women to light candles. This is a good thing, but you have to jump out of yourself in order to do it. Mesirut nefesh. Men guckt euch im mit der Krumer. I'm sorry. The Zugang is their inyan from a nes is higher from nature. And when a person does right, when a person goes above his nature and you do something that's above normal, men guckt euch im mit der Krumer oig. People look at you with a sort of a crooked eye, right? Would you like to put on tefillin? Who are you? What do you get away from me? I have my own life. I don't want to put on tefillin. Looks at him and crazy. What are you supposed to do with a person like that? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. No, darfem nit nispalvern. Don't become intimidated. Un men mit mesirat nefesh a rois gerufen de shlichus was der Eibishter hat ihm geschickt. You have to do what God sent you in the world to do, to spread out Judaism. You can say to him, okay, my friend, I'm just offering a good thing. What's good about tefillin? That's a crazy thing. No. It's really good. You'll see, you'll enjoy it. I put on a lot of people, they really enjoy it, having a good time. Okay, maybe next week. Right? I don't want to hurt your feelings. I'm not hurting your feelings, but you'll enjoy it. If you put on the tefillin, you'll really see. So eventually you can flow along with the thing, and you can say good things, and people see the genuineness in your eyes that you want to do them a favor. You're inviting them to learn a little bit of Torah with you. You're inviting them to a Torah class. You're inviting them to come to hear a lecture. You have to go outside of yourself, be outgoing. You have to be crazy, Mesirat Nefesh. And that's the attitude, what we can learn from Chanuka. We'll continue this, God willing, tomorrow. Wonderful. Wonderful. Here, let's try to do a little bit of the Yom Yom, which we've been doing every day. Yom Yom. Here it is. Today is what? It is Haftes, right? Haftes. And Shabbos Mavorchin, that was last Shabbos. The last Shabbat of every month is called Shabbat Mavorchin. It's the Shabbat that we bless the next month. Today, by the way, is Rosh Chodesh, right? Right? Is it Rosh Chodesh today? Is it? Huh? I think it is. I didn't look. Yeah, where's my calendar? Everything gets lost everywhere. Anyway, I think that today is Rosh Chodesh. Oh, here it is. Excuse me. Today. No. Tomorrow. Tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. Yom Revi'i. Today is Yom Shlishi, right? Today is Yom Shlishi. Tomorrow is Yom Revi'i. It's Rosh Chodesh. Very good. Okay, so on Shabbat Mavorchin, that was the previous Shabbat we had. Shabbat Mavorchin, what's the custom in Chabad? You wake up early in the morning, Chabad gets together, and we finish the whole book of Psalms. After you finish learning Psalms, then we learn about an hour, a mimer of Chassidut that can be understood to everybody. Afterwards, we pray. And then afterwards, we make a Farbringen. A Farbringen should be according to the people, however, which places it is. Some people they like to make it at somebody's house, some people in the synagogue. After you say all the Tehillim and Shabbos Mavorchim, you say a Kaddish Yatom. And if there's a person that's who's somebody in their family passed away, their parents passed away within the year, then they should say a Kaddish Yasom, the mourner's Kaddish, after each book of the 5 books of Psalms. Have a good day, everyone. 3 o'clock, try to be with us. Huh? Try to join us. 3 o'clock, we're learning. That's right. Today is Erev Rosh Chodesh. Today, 3 o'clock, be with us. We're learning Chumash. Very interesting. We're trying to do the chitas of every day. See you all. God bless you, and have a good day. Chanuka Sameach.